Hey, welcome back to the Combo Catch, everybody. Fam, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Who can hear me? That's the question. Sorry.
Hi, guys. Welcome.
Yeah, fam, riff. Will you riff for me? You know what riff
Yeah.
means? The definition of riff?
No, I don't. I'm such an idiot. I have no idea what that means. Um, what's up, guys?
Hey,
Everybody
guys.
has to everybody has to compliment Pasta on his speech. Everybody has to say he looked great because he's a very sensitive man and he needs to hear it. And we know this because I'm not, complimentary enough. So I wanted to make sure that I told Pasta he did a great job in his speech and he did a great job reaching out to libertarians and taking libertarians to where communists were having an event. I think that's freaking awesome. Oh my goodness gracious. The world didn't end. Holy crap, man. There was like liberals, conservatives, Republicans, and communists and libertarians in one spot and leftists? No way. Jeez.
Fam, I'm trying to investigate this YouTube thing. You're saying that the thumbnail's not showing up?
On the Twitter.
Okay. On the Twitter. Twitter's, yeah, it's there for the YouTube.
Yeah.
It's fucking, goddamn, fam. Susan Wojcicki is out. Who's the next person that's in? Who knows? It is what it is. But fam, let's get right into it because I do have today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna post it up soon. I'm supposed to go on one of those Twitter spaces with Mario Nawal. Is it Nawal, fam?
I have no idea.
Yeah, he's the Twitter
Yeah.
space dude, right? Yeah, I'm supposed to be going on one of those. We'll see. Talk about Ukraine and Russia, fam. And obviously, I got a lot of things to say, and I'm ready. In today's show, it's so funny because I was traveling back from DC, and I always like to buy newspapers like when I'm out and about, especially at the airports where I can get like a USA Today or a New York Times. What's up, Aram? We love you. Death to Tyrants hanging on out too as well. Thank you so much, guys. Do us a favor, share the stream, share the link, do the whole thing.
I'm trying.
But we have some things to talk about today. Let's talk about the rally, fam, because I'm going to play a video. And I need you to tell me true or false on the video. So let me bring it up and we will get going. But it was an amazing trip, fam. It was a little bit more semi-sweet of sorts, I should say, a little bit more sweetness for me because, this is something that, I've been working on for quite some time. We've made jokes about the whole thing. Pasta's a civil liberties guy. He's like a libertarian, that kind of thing. And a couple years ago, I met somebody and the wheels started churning. But fam, I just like to get your opinions. I didn't load the doc too much today. I didn't even really get any sleep last night, guys. I'm still a little bit buzzing in my head, and the internet wasn't working on the second ride home, so I couldn't even get on the internet and do a doc. But I was reading a bunch of stuff that I want to talk about today because I bought the newspapers and I was able to read both newspapers. But fam, I want to get your thoughts on the aftermath because, it's like our good friend Don DeBarra said that this is not so much about how many people show up this time. I think we got close to 5,000, more like around 4,000.
It seemed less than that, fam. It seemed like 2,000 to 3,000. I'm not trying to knock it down. I'm just saying like that's.
Well, it was 2 or 3. I'd say it was about 3,000 plus that attended the rally, and there was a bunch of people, tourists, just walking through. Right.
Okay.
So I'll add them on there because it is the Lincoln Memorial. But even still, let's say 3,000, right? Don had talked about this. We had talked about this. There is not a lot of people who really take foreign policy into consideration as their top priorities. It's kind of just whisked away. What happens outside of our borders happens outside of our borders. It doesn't affect me, fam. So why should I worry about it? There hasn't been an attack on soil except the fake one. Well, not a real fake one. Well, there was the real one of 9/11, which happened, of course. But there hasn't been an attack on American soil since what? Pearl Harbor, military-wise. So a lot of people are asleep on this issue, and they don't care that the nuclear clock, the doomsday clock, is close to midnight. So they don't care about it. So it's not in their purview. But there are some people who really understand the crux of what's going on. They understand what kind of dire straits we are on, that we are close to nuclear war, than ever before. And they also understand the death destruction that's taking place where you're at over there near the Donbass, and how that's affecting so many lives. Might not be American lives, but is affecting lives, fam.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I knew the turnout wasn't going to be that great, just because of what you said. I mean, people just don't see it affecting them directly, and we've talked about this. However, it is actually great for any rally that I've seen in recent times since George Floyd, and especially any anti-war rally, because we don't really get a great turnout for those anyway, because it's pretty much dead, the movement. And even just for this rally to happen took so much navigating different waters with, and I'm still upset at the ousting of Scott Ritter, and who you attended the event of where he did speak, and he was able to speak, give a perspective that is unique that we don't hear. And I think it's important his voice was heard. But just all of this politicizing and this culture war stuff, even within the Libertarian Party, is just really disheartening, and really just really I think we should highlight the good. And the good was that I saw the people all turn out. Different presidential candidates turned out, and I still, in spite of the fact that I don't support any politician, um, that they all came together to say whatever they said, and they didn't, just berate the event. That people who went there actually spoke about being, anti-war and against NATO, and I think it's important that that was said. Of course, you're going to get everybody. Rachel Maddow, of course, really, doing the usual, right? This is how she made her name. She's made her name now being the number one, anti-Russia, like, what is she, a pundit of sorts.
Yeah.
And really, I'm glad that I saw all these people come together. You're instrumental in bringing people together. You always do that, and I think it's important that we highlight. Could there have been more outreach? Absolutely. This should be the beginning. This shouldn't be the end. There should be more rallies like this with different voices being included with different things. But at the end of the day, people did come, people did turn out, and I think it's important that it happened, and it did get some coverage. So it's good that that happened.
Well, let's take a look at some of this coverage here. We're going to have a couple guests jump on in and jump on out. I got to meet somebody for the first time. Guess who it is? But we'll do it after the video, and we'll get her opinion. I'm going to give you, that's the only clue I'm giving you. It is a her. We'll get her opinion about, you said it was covered, right? So let's look at this here, fam. Rachel Maddow, right? Top news reporter. Let's take a listen. Let's take a little gander. Guys, do us a favor. Hit the like button, hit the share button. We are on YouTube. If you are a premium subscriber, of course, we are on Rockfin. We've been rumbling it out on Rumble, so please go over there too as well. If anybody can put the links in the chat, that would be great. Take a look at Rachel Maddow's coverage of Rage Against the War Machine.
And I mean truly random rally on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. A rally in support of Russia, I guess, given all the Russian flags, at least a rally against the U.S. supporting Ukraine in trying to stand up against the Russian invasion of their country. This was a tiny event. It was small. It was a weird assemblage of Americans. There were Proud Boys there. There were some of the white supremacist groups you'd recognize from the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville a few years ago. Also represented prominently the remains of the bizarre Lyndon LaRouche cult. There were a lot of people with Russian flags, also the occasional flag of the former Soviet Union. Also, at least one person who guest hosts for Tucker Carlson on the Fox News channel was there as a featured speaker. There were anti-vaccine conspiracy theorists, a lot of them. There were cryptocurrency promoters. It was a really weird group. It was a small rally and a weird one. But that's what it looks like. That's the assemblage of short straws and split ends and loose change and loose electrons that's advocating in this country that Russia's in the right in this war and America should be on Putin's side as he keeps invading other countries. I mean, no disrespect to the Americans who turned out as part of this small event this weekend, but it's not like they represent a big constituency that is arguing for this pro-Russia point of view.
Let me unmute myself.
Well,
Sorry.
we're gonna welcome our guest, and Sabi, I just want to right off the bat welcome you, and I thank you for attending the rally. But what do you think of what she said in the context of what's going on in the United States right now, in Ohio, and the belittling nature of her comments, in like contrast to why is nobody talking about these residents in Ohio? Why is nobody talking about inflation? Why is nobody talking about you? Because you cover a lot of these issues, and I know you do. So I just want to hear your perspective on that as well.
Well, first and foremost, Rachel Maddow is such a liar. This is the same woman that pushed Russiagate. Has she apologized for that, by the way?
No.
I don't think so. I think what you saw there on MSNBC is typical reporting for them. They wanted to point out that there were people there with Russian flags. There were also people there with flags from Ukraine. And they didn't show that in their coverage. Notice how she continued to say this was a small rally. That was actually the largest rally that I've been to since the George Floyd protests.
Yep.
But they wanted to make it seem like it was smaller than what it was. What's really interesting to me as well is that not once did she mention that this rally was a call for peace. She made it sound like it was a pro-Putin rally, which we've heard this framing going all across social media as well. Anyone who's out here right now calling for peace, they're still calling you like Putin puppets. It's absolutely ridiculous. But the thing is that I like to point out is the fact that billions of dollars have gone to Ukraine. And I was just on Rising this morning having the same conversation. Billions of dollars have gone to Ukraine, yet where are the billions of dollars for people who are in Jackson, Mississippi? Where's the billions of dollars for people in Flint, Michigan? Where's the billions of dollars for people in the Bronx? Where's the billions of dollars to end the homelessness crisis that we have in this country? And the American people should be asking those questions, and they're not, because they're distracted by people like Rachel Maddow, who's framing something that it's not. She's framing it in a way that it's not. They're distracted by a left-right divide. She purposely focused on Tulsi Gabbard speaking at that rally. They didn't show that Dennis Kucinich was there. They didn't show that Chris Hedges spoke at that rally, that Tara Reid spoke at that rally. They didn't show any of the left-wing speakers that we had at that rally. They did that on purpose. Now, there was a lot of division in reference to who was invited to this rally. I'm sure you guys know that. I personally, I said this earlier this morning, I personally would not have invited Tulsi Gabbard because Tulsi Gabbard is not anti-war, but I didn't organize the rally. And that didn't stop me from attending the rally. So I think that for me, it's just, we have to find a way to combat the mainstream media narrative because they are controlling the narrative in reference to this war, just like I saw them do with the war in Iraq. And you would think that the American people would be more alert to this, but they're not. We are heavily propagandized in this country, and it's a big problem. But I don't know about you, Pasta and Fee, but I'm really tired of people trying to smear any type of event or rally that is happening. It's not just this one, because I watched people do it with the Marches for Medicare for All 2 years ago as well. In over 50 cities across this country, people were smearing the speakers, the same thing that's happening right now. So for me, it's just, this is a constant problem. And it's a distraction, and it prevents us from actually trying to achieve any type of progress and moving forward.
I think one of the valid criticisms you get from your network is the fact is they're like, well, if you don't like it, do your own thing. And you're like, we do all the time. So, I mean, that's something that I think you guys can hang your hat on over there on RBM because you guys do walk the walk. And I know we have different disagreements and things we don't all get along on, and that's okay because that's what it's supposed to be about. But what are your thoughts and what have you seen from the left grassroots in your circles? Because I know that, you know, I've made a lot of friends with a lot of libertarians, and like I stayed with some of the libertarians that I met 3 years ago when I went up with the Tulsi Gabbard, campaign, when I was really supporting her, when I thought that, she was the most anti-war candidate there, and she has had her good moments. But you're right, I mean, I would have thought twice about inviting her, especially what she's been up to lately, with this whole almost like recruitment film, of her dressed up in the military. And I've been in agreement with her more than I've been in agreement with Mike Preisner, the Winter Soldier, who gave an amazing speech. But Mike Preisner walked that walk, and I think leaving the military is what I would like to see from a lot of military people. However, once again, I didn't book people. I was asked to speak. I'm going to take advantage of it because it is people of different ideologies. But what are your thoughts coming out of this? Because I think the most important thing is, we have a different type of nation now, right? we're not going to be able to get people out in the streets as much as we can because people are attached to everything in their home. They're attached to the computer, whatnot. But for me, it's about, and this is something that Don DeBar has talked about on this show, it's coming out of this with the media and the clips and the message. In other words, this isn't the end game. This is only the beginning. But what have you witnessed encouraging or disappointing from the grassroots on your end, Sabby Sabs?
Well, there are more anti-war rallies that are going to be scheduled. You'll hear about them soon. I know there's another one in March called Peace in Ukraine. That one's also in DC. I think Code Pink and Black Alliance for Peace are sponsoring that one. So that's another one that's coming up. There's also anti-war rallies here in Boston that I've attended that's been put on by Massachusetts Peace Action. They're really good about those things as well. Unfortunately, a lot of times it doesn't get like even local media coverage. We'd like to increase the numbers, and that's really how you get the media to come out. You really have to increase those numbers. But I want people to understand from activists that I've been talking to on the left, the anti-war movement on the left is not where it should be. There are leftists that support this war with Russia and Ukraine. There are leftists that support the funding that's being sent to Ukraine. So I think we really need to take a step back and reevaluate what it means to be anti-war, because I thought that's something that the left was supposed to embrace. And now I'm seeing differently. So if you don't have the numbers for anti-war movement on the left, what are you supposed to do? If you want to increase those numbers, you're going to have to unite with people who may be like libertarians. I don't agree with them on other issues, but I do agree with them on being anti-war. Why can't we unite on that one particular issue? When we did the Marches for Medicare for All rally, we united with people who agreed on that particular issue. Dr. Joseph Jarvis was a conservative doctor who spoke at the March for Medicare for All rally in DC. He is not, does not agree on the other progressive issues, but he does agree on Medicare for all. So should he have not been a speaker? You see how far this goes? And this is what I'm trying to explain to people. If you really want a movement, you have to increase the numbers. If you look back at the Vietnam War protests, that was the largest anti-war movement we've had in this country, and we haven't had that since. And that is because they were affected by two different factors. Number one, there was the draft.
Yeah.
So you had a lot of Americans that were directly affected by that war, whether they wanted to be or not. Two, you had the mainstream media coverage of civilian casualties in Vietnam, which mainstream media doesn't show that anymore for good reason, right? They don't want the Americans to see how many civilians are hurt or killed during these wars. So the American people were exposed to the casualties of war on an enormous scale. That is not happening anymore today. When it comes to the military, I was a military kid. When I was growing up, there were a lot of people who were in the military. Military recruitment today is down. And this is why you see a lot of military and war propaganda, whether it's on TikTok, whether it's on Twitch. They're targeting kids in high school to try to recruit them earlier to join because the numbers are down and they're not increasing the numbers. So I think that the average adult today may not necessarily know someone who's in the military. And when I was growing up, it was the opposite. So they know that the numbers are decreasing. So they're trying to find a way to increase that. And I think if the left is upset about this rally, then we should be organizing a rally just as large on the left. Where is that? Where is it? How do you do that, Pasta and Fee, when you have people in left independent media who support this conflict?
Yeah, well, there is the Answer Coalition that is doing their march, and they are mostly leftists, and they have people with a lot of different issues, and some of them chose not to participate in this because they didn't like the Mises caucus, or they didn't agree with this person up there. And it's got, look, at the end of the day, we can get in a room and decide, what's best for all of us and work out these problems. But first, we got to save the friggin' planet. And on Saturday, there was a Jimmy Dore show that I didn't go to because I was in my Airbnb with 16 people, and I had libertarians, and I had people from Covert Action Magazine. I had people from Massage, and one of those people that was there was Misty Winston, who joins us, and now she's joining the show. But Misty, you were there when we were talking in the room with all different types of people doing different things, journalists, podcasters, activists, the whole 9 yards. And we gathered a email list and said, hey, when we come out of this, even though we think differently, we have different ideologies on a lot of things, let's work together to save the planet.
Yeah.
Shouldn't more of that be coming out of this whole rally rather than the dirt and the vile and the disgustingness and the egos and the crap we are witnessing, not just from the leftists, but my libertarian friends were blown away because they don't do a lot of rallies. They did a rally and they were like, holy shit, we're getting attacked. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, you and I know this because, I mean, excuse me, I have a little cold. I'm sorry. But even like, I mean, for years with my Assange stuff, we've been trying to bring people together because the Assange issue is not a partisan issue. It's not a left issue. It's not a right issue. It's an everybody issue. So we've been building those coalitions and building those relationships for a very long time. So seeing it happen on a bigger scale with this rally was super, super, super great to see. And of course, that's going to get attacked because people are idiots. I mean, I don't mean to be mean, but I do because people are idiots. I think that there's a lot of people in particular on the online left who are more concerned about being able to feel smugly superior than they are about actually getting anything done. And that's really unfortunate. And as Sabi was just saying, seeing so many people on the quote unquote left support this nonsense in Ukraine is so mind-blowingly depressing. But having like the event that you had at your Airbnb, I mean, listen, it was like myself and a couple of other Assange people, some libertarians, there was people from across the political spectrum. We sat in the same room together for hours, had conversations, we laughed, we joked, we talked, and I left unscathed. I didn't suddenly come out a right winger. I'm not suddenly like a Nazi. I mean, I was already a Nazi according to most people on Twitter who don't like me, but you know what I mean? Like building those coalitions and having those relationships is something that we need to do. That's how we're going to get things done. And I'm selfish, y'all. I want to get some shit done.
Yeah, I want to save the planet too. Fam, any thoughts? Because in that room, they kept every time before the libertarians spoke, they were like, before I spoke, the libertarians would go, hold on a second to the libertarian friends and go, remember, they're communist. He wants to kill you. And I'm like, yeah,
they were just joking.
Not until after we take care of the oligarch, right. Then we'll get rid of you when you don't need you anymore. We had those jokes and fun because they were so over the top. And these libertarians that were with me, like Reed, like Liberty Lockdown, like the Jackman brothers, they were like, dude, we understand working with you and working together. This is all crazy stuff in the past. Let's work together.
Yeah, well, like I said, first of all, I want to say thank you to all of you, Misty for helping organize this, and Pasta and Sabi for going in spite of all the attacks, because there were a lot of attacks, and the attacks weren't just coming from people, the usual suspects on the left. They were coming from some people in independent media, some people who were just upset, other organizers, whatever the issue was. And this is really sad because looking at it from not being in the United States right now, we're looking at what's going on in the US right now, in Ohio, what's gone on in Jackson, Mississippi, what's gone out economically for the people of the US. The inflation, the cost of everything has gone up. And we can't even get not just the left, but like everybody to agree on just one thing to stand against nuclear war. And I'm telling you right now, nuclear war is extremely, it's more likely than it's ever been. And we have to take responsibility. And this is something that I want to highlight, especially to all the people, who daily have been calling me a propagandist for a long time, but it's increased now recently. I don't care if you like Putin. I don't care if you think Russia was in the wrong to go into Ukraine. I think that obviously I have my opinion on that. I think that they were trying to save certain people. I think that they were justified. But if you don't agree with that, that's fine. Still go to the rally. Because the reality is what we can do as Americans is our responsibility to stand against what our government is doing. And that's what our government is doing. Your opinion on Russia, on China is irrelevant to me because you're not in Russia or China. You're in the United States and your government is waging this war on the world and getting us way closer to a nuclear catastrophe. And we've said this before, and Misty knows because it happened during the Assange events as well. It happened, as Sabi mentioned, during the Medicare for All events. We can't even begin to argue about ideology when we're all going to be subjected by this, this totalitarian type of government that is fixing to control all of us, or fixing to kill us, if not. So to me, it's kind of like this is first and foremost. If you have any sort of integrity, you can go to a rally to at least be a body there and stand against what the crimes that your country is doing. And I say your country, but it's my country too. It's the United States. I'm an American. And so I can hate Russia or China all I want, but the American government is the one that is doing this and that I have some sort of control over through some sort of action. And so to me, I'm just going to pose the question, did you see that out of this rally, that any sort of understanding in the US's role, in the State Department's role, in how important it is to stand against NATO, to really see how the US government is leaving the American people, and of course, exporting this sort of type of foreign policy? Did you see any sort of sense in that going here forward from what you saw at the rally?
Sabby?
Well, I do know at the end of the rally, Medea Benjamin did say that for those who are in the DC area, there are going to be like next steps after this rally in reference to legislation. So they are going to be fighting to try to put forth some type of legislation for those of you that are in that area. And I think that's one of the questions that did come up. Colin from Independent News Network, I interviewed him about this at the rally as well, is what are the next steps? Because we've gone to a lot of these rallies and sometimes there doesn't seem to be a plan B. So that is something that he did talk about. You have to continue these rallies. We have to continue these efforts. You can't just do it one time. But the fact that people are talking about it, that mainstream media is talking about it, even though they're talking about it in an incorrect way, that tells you that it's getting attention.
Yeah.
So
well, they are actually too, Sabby. Angela McArdle announced at the rally they are moving forward. They're going to start doing sort of like teach-ins, and they're going to teach people how to go to their local town halls or city council meetings or whatever and start confronting politicians. So that's kind of one of the next steps. I know that they do intend to have more rallies, maybe even some more localized rallies, but it can't just stop at rallies. I think rallies are great. It's a great way for us to come together, get kind of energized, be with people who understand and who get it, hear some powerful speakers and get motivated. But we also have to take that into other areas. So I think that there's a lot of plans for them to do some teach-ins to teach people how to confront politicians, how to write to legislators, how to do all of those things as well. But I think really the big thing is, and the jumping point off from this rally, I think is just growing the movement. The anti-war movement has been all but completely neutered. So I think this was a really good first step jumping off point to rebuilding that and to revitalizing that, which is so desperately needed right now. As we said, we're desperately close to nuclear war, and nobody wins there, y'all. Nobody wins. So I think that's really kind of a galvanizing thing, is that this is going to bring people together. Hopefully this will bring more people into the movement. And then the Rage Against the War Machine people do intend to have kind of teach-in situations where they can educate people about how we can really start confronting these legislators.
Civics. They're going to teach civics that are being gone from our politics. Sabby, did you have anything else to say on that real quick? Or can I pose another question?
You can go to another question.
All right. I found it because one of the great things that happened, I had some great moments. I'll show one of them, which was I'll show one of them with Scott Horton. That was fun. I got to introduce Jimmy Dore and my boy Gerald Salente. I see Gerald Salente. He gives me the Italian hug and kiss. He's just great. Those are two of my spirit animals, and getting to see that. But getting to see so many people out there, getting to see Colin, Shane came up. Lucy was there. Nebosha was there. So many people. Daryl was there.
Yeah.
Just
Trey.
amazing people. Trey Wright, of course. Courtney Banks came in. She did a live stream with us. It was just so humbling. Heather from South Carolina. Louise Brooks fam, old school, all these people. Somebody came up and just gave me some money. He said, I don't tip online, but I wanted to give this to you. And just saying, I support you guys. Marie Fonseca was there. There was just so many great people. I got to see Sabby in the streets, and then getting to see my libertarian brethren do their speech at the White House in a circle with a bullhorn. You know what I'm saying? It was just amazing what they got to say. And, it was this amazing event. But here's something that my friend DC just put up. And I got a call on the night before the rally from DC, who's been a long-time follower of our show and a watcher of our shows. And I'm going to pose the question. I'm going to start with you, Sabby, first, too, as well. And, fam, I want your answer on this as well, because you've always been there, because I kind of got labeled more as the Tulsi supporter. But Reed Coverdale is a Trump supporter.
He's not a Trump supporter.
He's not. I'm going to say that. But
he's not a Trump supporter.
But wait, he did say something, but I'm not going to attack him for opposing that. Reed Coverdale has said that if you would look at all the people who have already committed to running for president, Trump is the most anti-war. In fact, he's the only one that's calling for an end to the war in Ukraine. And if Tulsi, and I'm not in the business of defending Tulsi anymore, if she were to jump in, she has her standing up against the INF treaty alone in Congress. She has the only one who went to see Assad in Syria and call for an end. She did say that the Bolivian situation was a coup and the U.S. not be involved. If she were to jump in, she would be the most anti-war candidate there. Now, Trump really is. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, because I did in my speech make fun of the Democrats and the Republicans, calling them the baseless Democrats, the let's go invade Haiti Democrats, let's support the war in Ukraine Democrats. My favorite one was, we came, we saw, he died. Democrats, right? Yeah. But I mean, this has got to be a scary fucking thought right now to say that Donald Trump is the most anti-war.
But it's only rhetoric. That's only it's only what he says. He's not legitimately anti-war.
But Trump rhetoric does mean something. It does have a little.
Not really. Effect. No, you can say whatever you want, but if you're going to take us into war, then I don't really care if you give me the flowery statements. That really makes no difference to me whatsoever. And that really is just all it is. It's just who he's pandering to. He's pandering to his base. He knows his base is against this war. He's very good. He knows how to read a room and he knows how to speak to his audience. He is very good about that. So that's why I say electoral politics doesn't matter. It does not matter who the fucking president is. We will be in war. Period. End of story. Period. End of story. The military-industrial complex rules this country. That is who controls our foreign policy. It has nothing to do with who the president is. So yeah, maybe in rhetoric, if you want to give like that tiny little like, okay, sure, he says a little bit more anti-war stuff. Sure. Okay. But he doesn't mean it. And it doesn't matter. We will go to war regardless of who is president. And that's why we have to start fighting the system from the outside.
Sabby, jump in there. I want to hear your opinions on this because I do think rhetoric matters. It's not as important as policy, but if people are going to repeat it and people are going to think that they're anti-war now and go start walking the walk, maybe there's something effective of that. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I don't know if I would I would not call Trump anti-war. No. I think, again, he's preaching to he's speaking to his base. He knows that's what they want to hear right now. Let's all remember the things that he said when he ran in 2016. Remember, he said that he was going to drain the swamp. That didn't happen.
He hired it.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. He gave corporations more tax breaks. So this is just rhetoric that he knows that his base wants to hear so that he can get reelected again. So I hope people sincerely don't fall for that. But this is what happens when the left has allowed right-wing politicians to kind of take over the anti-war position. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, why is it okay for MTG to complain about this war with Russia and Ukraine, but AOC and the rest of them are silent? I thought lefties, again, are supposed to be anti-war. So this is the problem. And I told this same thing with Shama Sawant and with Chris Hedges. I said that now you have more people who are leaving the Democratic Party, which there's no shade in that. You should. But some of those people were going over to the Republican Party because they genuinely believe that Donald Trump is now anti-war. Yeah. And this is the problem. So I think that, again, at the end of the day, Misty's 100% right. The military-industrial complex controls all of it.
Yeah. Fam, I want you to jump in there because, let me tell you something. I know what you guys are saying, but the Democrats who are all going to run, the ones who are speaking out there are Putin this, we're going after Putin. They're openly, we're going against Putin because he's a threat to democracy. Go ahead, fam.
So I think what you mean, Pasta, is that rhetoric matters for the public. Like Absolutely. The public falls for the rhetoric. But it really doesn't matter in general, like in terms of what happens in our policy at all. And I agree with Misty and Sabby on this, like absolutely 100%. That not the military industrial complex and the national security state apparatus are the ones that clearly run our foreign policy. I mean, what Seymour Hersh just revealed, the fact that the U.S. is just instrumental in destroying these pipelines, that's an act of war. Mm. And during Trump's presidency, Soleimani was killed. And it make no mistake, if we get a Republican president, you're going to have more anti or more pro-war rhetoric and more pro-war actions against China. Because at the end of the day, again, it's not even just about Russia. This is also about China. So that's where we're going to go. And so people need to realize that they really need to look at politicians as actions rather than their rhetoric. And I know in general, the population is really doesn't still do that. That's the problem, which is why they go from Democrat to Republican, because one says something cool. The other one's like, oh, well, at least, Trump. And even here in Russia, people are perceiving the Republican Party as being less hawkish than the Democratic Party. And then when it came out, of course, the Chinese balloon stuff that was coming out, I was like, I guys, like, they're not. They're like, they take turns on who's their enemy to target. And so I think even Russians are realizing, like, okay, yeah, like, this is like the whole American system as a whole, which is why, again, like, I'm glad that you guys have brought up that there's a continuation of this, because there has to be some sort of action that is not reliant upon who becomes president in 2024. If we get there, right? Who becomes president in 2024 is irrelevant.
Yeah.
It's literally everything that's going on in our foreign policy has been the same for the last 30 years or so, or even more than that.
Yeah.
Well, and Pasa, I actually think that the rhetoric thing is dangerous because, like Sabby said, when Trump pretends to be anti-war, then people just get sucked into the Republican Party. And so it's really just they're just playing off of each other in order to keep people invested into the two-party system. Yeah. And I think that that's worse.
Well, I think there is a little bit of that, and I think there's a little bit of the other, A and B. You know what I'm saying? Because I do honestly believe that brings people's attention to start looking in to what's going on in these conflicts, because there's a lot of conservatives that never really did look into a lot of these conflicts. Now, yeah, they looked into it because it was a burn against the Democrats, and I think that, they looked at this war right here as Biden's war. And I did make sure I pointed this out, ladies. I hope you're proud of it, that I added in my speech that, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I know Matt Gaetz is floating a bill out there and he says he wants to end war. Hey, that's great. A little bit late, 250,000 people dead, but better late than ever. But don't think for 1 second that you're going to take that money out of Kiev, that's a proxy war with Moscow, you're going to switch it over to Taiwan to have a proxy war with Beijing. It ain't going to happen. But here's something I want to point out really quickly, ladies. Look at this really quick. This is the sister rally in Germany. What the hell is going on? Why can't we get as many people to an anti-war rally like this? This is.
Did the people in Germany spend a month demonizing every speaker and every move, every fart that the organizers made?
Probably not. And they were probably
not
complaining the fact that the Nord Stream 2 pipeline was blown up by their supposedly allies, and now they're sitting there and they're seeing death after destruction, and they're cold. And by the way, Nebojsa Malik was there as well, fam. And we said that one of the best lines of the year last year was Germans used to have to go to Stalingrad to freeze their ass off. Now they can just stay at home because of what the U.S. did to the North.
But that's why, Pasta, too. You asked why, right? That's why they're being directly affected more so than Americans are. The gas prices in the cost to heat your apartment up are absolutely ridiculous. They're getting told not to shower, to burn like logs, and it is really happening. And Germany, of course, more than anybody in the EU, because they receive cheap gas from Russia. And the whole point of this was the United States didn't like the relationship between Germany and Russia becoming too cozy. They didn't want that to go there. So really, the U.S. is really killing like the entire economy of the EU, especially Germany. So these people understand that. They're also more aware of the history because, of course, of everything that happened in their country. So they're going to be out there more. And unfortunately, I think we've had this conversation before. I don't think Americans are really going to come out en masse until something massively directly hits them and the war comes home. And it is home. I think the U.S. is waging war against its people, but it's just not as obvious yet. And unfortunately, I think things will have to get worse to see that level of numbers out in the streets.
Plus, I think people have to realize, like in those European countries, haven't lived there, in countries like Germany and Denmark and France, they come together on the economic issues. So all those people that you see out there at the protests, those aren't just people on the left. When their pocket is affected, they come out, they join together and come out and protest against it. 50,000 people protested in Denmark over the fact that they wanted to remove one holiday, and they wanted to give more money to NATO. 50,000 people came out just like that, didn't even hesitate. So that is the difference. And that's what we've been trying to get people to do here in the United States, to at least get together on those economic issues. But people won't do that because they're so divided over left versus right. Yep. So that's the difference there. They will come together on the economic issues, where in the United States, for the most part,
they actually show class solidarity. They don't let culture war stuff get in the way of class solidarity. We need that here today, please.
Well, another group that I told them after, because my libertarian friends, oh, that's Sabby Sabs. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, you got to go on her show, make sure you connect, have her on your show, because there's an area, I think, where RBN, and I know Fam and Misty are there, where you can really agree with the libertarians, and that's
I
on
love them.
policing. On the policing,
Yeah.
nobody hates the cops
More than
more
libertarians.
than the libertarians.
Yeah, it's so
So
true.
let me just say that much. And you got a lot of things to talk about. It's all about civil liberties. It's all about, listen, I met one of the heads of the Mises Caucus. In fact, I met two of the heads of the Mises Caucus. And they were so excited to tell me about some of the law reforms they got pushed in Kentucky they've been doing for so long, eliminating no-knock warrants and chokeholds and all these other things. And they were like just dying to talk to me about it. And I was like, I had my differences. I wanted to talk to them about some of the guff that was on their Twitter when it came to Scott Ritter and all that stuff. But we put that aside. We're here at the event. We're having a good time. But these people are willing to go on our shows. They're willing to talk to leftists. I mean, there has been a big push from a lot of old school libertarians about going and getting involved with leftists. They call some of us Marxists who killed Christians and all this other shit in the past and whatnot. But one of the biggest reasons is for this, the fact that there was a ton of Russian flags. There was a ton of communist flags. There was people. But let me tell you something. This is from Caleb's group. This is from CPI. He came to the rally. I totally forgot his name. He's a cool-ass dude. He always remembered me. But he talks about why he supports Russia, right? You know, and I'm not a Marxist, but I don't want to say I support Russia in war, because I don't support any war whatsoever. Nobody wants war, but I can tell you who didn't want war at all were the people of Donbass. You know, and when you do these things on the border, whether you agree with me or not, and you think the quickest way to peace is through some sort of Russian victory, because the United States only wants war. It only wants death and destruction. It actually wants regime change in Russia, and that is bonkers. So let's listen to this gentleman from CPI, and I want your thoughts on this, because this is another area where the mainstream media is attacking this event because of people like this. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you out there, I met an 88-year-old woman on the plane. She got an interview by the Daily Beast. She's an anti-war activist. She brought a Russian flag to the thing because she thought it was important to expose what happened in 2014. Take a look at this, and then I want your opinions. Fam, you could do this one first, since you have an opinion, and then we'll go to the other ladies right after. Ladies and gentlemen out there, do us a favor. Hit the like button. Hit the share button. We're on Rumble. We're on Rockfin if you're a premium subscriber. We're on YouTube until they kick us off. We're here with Misty Winston, Sabrina Salvati, Fiorella, and myself. Rage Against the War Machine update.
They're using Ukraine as they're using Ukrainians to fight this war against Russia. And Ukrainians are just like, I mean, just
cannon fodder, essentially.
yeah.
Just to kind of get it on record, are you here carrying a Russian flag ironically in some way to protest this, or because you sincerely support Russia?
I support Russia. I believe Putin is justified in his actions to defend Donbass, the people, defend their sovereignty. And Russia, I think, has every right to defend themselves against NATO expansion and imperialist aggression.
Yeah. Amen, dude.
Do you think you are aligned with this event?
Yes.
With those beliefs?
Yes. Right now, the primary task for us is to prevent World War III, prevent nuclear war. They're using Ukraine.
Yeah, so real quick, but I mean, I 100% agree with this guy. Going to Donbass and really seeing the U.S. supplied HIMARS rockets and really seeing our weapons that were used to be shot at markets, that were used at hospitals, that were used at apartment buildings where you know that there are civilians, and there's absolutely no justification of that. And of course, the previous history of 9 years ago. Nobody even cared about Ukraine 9 years ago. Nobody even mentioned it. Nobody talked about this, about what was going on in Donbass. That was never, and anybody's sort of, Ukrainian flags weren't there at all on anyone's social media that I can recall, except a few journalists that were covering the event and a few people that were there. So the main reason why I believe it's still anti-war to hold a Russian flag, if that's what you want to do, it's because the he's absolutely right. Ukraine is cannon fodder for this political agenda that the United States and NATO want. This isn't the first time. 20 years ago, we were lied into war in Iraq with these fabricated weapons of mass destruction. We were lied about that entire thing. Millions of Iraqis died. The same playbook is being used for vilifying. We vilify all of these supposed authoritarian dictators that we have no business opining on, because we have our own problems at home. So to me, it's like, I think he can be anti-war and hold a Russian flag, because to him and to many people, the aggressors of this war are NATO, that using this, and they've said it as much. The German member pretty much said, "Hey, by the way, we're at war with Russia," and they said it as much. So Ukrainians, if you want to save Ukraine, and please, by all means, bring a Ukrainian flag to the event. I don't think there's a problem.
At least one.
Good, because this is if you care about Ukraine, you want to end this conflict, because Ukrainians are being used as cannon fodder by the West. Why is the United States not really saying they're entering this war? We're not sending our soldiers. All who are dying are Ukrainians. That's what's going on. The economy is completely done. Ukraine will never be the same. If you want to save Ukrainians and Russians alike, and you want peace, the quickest way to do that is to stop interfering in the governments of both Ukraine and Russia, which is what the United States wants to do. They want to wipe Russia off the map. They want to destabilize the country. They've been wanting to do this for a long time. We grow up hating Russia. We grow up being told that Russians are bad. We are literally propagandized
in our movies.
By movies. Charlie Chaplin was literally accused of working with the Soviet Union. He couldn't even live in his country. And so this is something that to me is deeply personal. I do consider myself a communist, but at the same time, to me, putting the ideology aside of all of that, putting the whole thing aside, to me as an American, I want our country to take responsibility for what it's doing. And that's all I can do as an American. And so I don't care if you carry a Russian flag or Ukrainian flag, as long as you're there to protest what this regime of NATO is doing, and to really draw attention to our needs as Americans. What can be done for our country, and how we can stop exporting this culture of violence abroad.
What are your thoughts, Sabrina, on this? Because I'm curious, and then we'll get to you right after, Misty. But Sabrina, what are your thoughts on this as far as the Russian flag? Because I really haven't heard RBN's position as far as whether it's justified, like this gentleman said, that they're allowed to stand up for their national sovereignty. They're allowed to protect their people on their border. They don't want Nazis coming in close. I mean, we could talk about a million reasons of why we think it was justified. But what is your thoughts? Because I know you're a peace activist. So, tell us what you think.
I've been calling for peace from day one, actually. And I know that was something that they did try to do earlier on, and the United States was like, no. So that's a factor as well. But I've been calling for peace because I realize how this could escalate, right? If you have war with Russia at some point, and this war should have been over already. This already should have been negotiated. But at some point, it's going to get to the point where China may need to get involved. Now you have two powerful countries. I think that I really wish that mainstream media would just admit this, but they're not going to until they get the thumbs up from the State Department. And that is that Ukraine is not going to win this. So it really frustrates me when I hear people say that they want to fight to the last Ukrainian. Do you know what that really means?
That's gross.
That means that all of them could be dead.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just like, for people say, no, we have to continue to help them and help them fight. We should be calling for peace negotiations it should have been done from day one. And especially so now, because the longer this war continues, the more people are going to die, whether it's Russians or Ukrainians. And in the end, what is going to happen to the country of Ukraine? Their economy is broken.
Yeah.
This is done. So I think that for me, it's just, this is not a win for Ukraine. They cannot win this war. And the United States government knows that. And this is something that Julian Assange had pointed out before. The goal is not to win. The goal is to create a never-ending war that the military-industrial complex can continue to profit off of. We were in Afghanistan for 20 years.
Yeah.
And what came of it? What came of it? The U.S. government putting sanctions on people in Afghanistan. So you have women and children who are starving there. So for the people who say the U.S. government went in to protect the women and the children, where's the protection of the women and the children now that they're starving because of the sanctions from the United States government? So people have to understand it's not about winning. And as long as you live in this country, you're gonna eat up that propaganda from mainstream media, because they will continue to tell you that we have to help them win. They're not going to win this. Their country and their economy is going to be destroyed. And at the end of the day, Russia's going to get what they want anyway. So what is the point?
Yeah, absolutely. Misty, you got to jump in on this one too. As well,
I have things to say.
What did the Afghan war give us? It gave us a gateway and a runway to move that money from Afghanistan after 20 some odd years.
War is a racket.
Ukraine. Go ahead.
Pasa, you said it. Smedley Butler. War is a racket. This is a money laundering operation. All wars are a money laundering operation. That's all that this is. And it's really disgusting. And it makes me, because I'm anti-war, but I'm not a pacifist. It's not like we didn't know that this was going to happen. All kinds of people, even Henry Kissinger was like, hey guys, we should back off. Russia's not going to take this for very much longer. And it's very interesting to me because I hear the talking point that a lot of people use is, well, Ukraine has a right to defend itself and Russia doesn't. Like, Russia doesn't have a right to defend itself against NATO expansion and obvious escalation? Of course they do. If you think Ukraine has a right to defend itself, then absolutely so does Russia. And it's absurd to pretend otherwise. And it's really frustrating to me that so many people have bought into, like Fee said earlier, this is the same goddamn playbook they use every single time. And you all are still falling for it. In 20 years, people are going to be pretending that they were against this war, just like they do with Iraq. And it's so fucking frustrating to me that we have to go through this over and over and over again. And so many people have to die. So many people have to suffer. So much has to be lost for nothing. Like, this is a rich man's war. It's a NATO war. Stop saying it's Putin's war. He didn't just act without any reason here. This was not unprovoked, as they like to say.
Not according to the New York Times.
That's fucking ridiculous. If you are saying that, then you are an idiot and you have absolutely no idea about relevant history. Because as Fee pointed out, this has been going on since 2014. Frankly, for much longer than that. This has been going on for a very long time. And we have been setting the stage for this bit by bit, piece by piece, as we do all over the world. And we overthrew their government to install our little puppet so that we could do exactly what we're doing today. And this is not and stop trying to tell me that you care about the people of Ukraine if you are supporting this conflict. You do not care about the people of Ukraine, because the people of Ukraine are not going to win, as Sabi just said, and they are the ones that are going to lose the most. And so anybody who is not calling for immediate peace right now, no questions asked, is not in favor of the people of Ukraine. And to pretend that the United States government actually cares about we don't even care about the people of this country. Our president, instead of going to East Palestine, Ohio, which is, under a chemical cloud, a bit mushroom cloud, he went to fucking Ukraine on President's Day to hobnob with cocaine-addled Zelensky, who's begging for more billions of dollars. So Ukraine gets all this money. The people of this country get nothing. And I'm supposed to believe that we actually care about this. Isn't about humanitarian reasons or defending the people of Ukraine or sovereignty. Really? You think we care about countries' sovereignty? Since when? Do we care about Syria's sovereignty? Because we're currently illegally occupying their country and stealing their oil.
And they're getting bombed in the middle of a humanitarian crisis. And don't tell me it's Israel. It's Israel in the United States. It's the same effing thing. Go ahead, Misty.
No, but it's mind-blowingly stupid to me that so many otherwise intelligent human beings are unable to see through the farce and the propaganda that is being thrown at us. It is so unbelievably obvious that this has always been a NATO war. It has always been a NATO war. It has always been a NATO war. And I am anti-war. I don't like the fact that there's a war going on, but I also don't. I certainly don't blame. People are gonna see she's defending Putin. I'm not defending Putin. I don't like Putin. They're all psychopaths, but I don't blame him for defending the people of Donbass. I don't blame him he was pushed and he warned for fucking 8 years. You guys are pushing me too far. I mean, that's pretty fucking patient to wait 8 years before finally taking an action. So I'm just frankly, I don't care about the flag. Dude has free speech rights. He can bring whatever flag he fucking wants to a protest. I think optically, I guess for the event, it wasn't a great look just because of all of the idiots who were pretending like it was a pro-Putin rally. Were there people there who are sympathetic to Putin? Absolutely. But it was bigger than that. It wasn't just about that. It was about what we're talking about now. And it's I'm just really kind of over all of I'm really just over the people who are constantly trying to tear down any action, whether it's Medicare for all, Assange stuff, anti-war, it doesn't matter. And if you're an organizer and you're yourself been attacked by the same kind of stuff like this, and then you're out there doing it to other people. What the fuck, dude?
Don't even get me started. Don't even get me started on that, Misty.
It's so fucking frustrating, Sabby. I'm seeing people who have gone through the exact same stuff and have had the same smears leveled at them. In fact, some of the same people involved, and they're using those smears and attacks against other organizers. You don't have to like the organizers. I don't like all of them. I have my disagreements with some of them. I don't like all of the speakers. I have my disagreements with some of them, but it's bigger than that. It's not about personalities. This is about ending war, period. It's a single issue coalition. You can come together with people that you don't agree with. I think ending nuclear war is kind of a big deal. I don't know if there's anything bigger.
Capitalist. What do you think?
You know what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck? Oh, sorry, I'm ranting now. I'm sorry.
You know, you can curse. It's okay. We don't get the convo couch, and I will say this much too as well. I've had my differences with the People's Party. I didn't want to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I have a lot of differences with the Libertarians, economically, and also a few things because, you know, their ideology can really be a little crazy sometimes.
Yes.
And I want to play a little quick video, but, you know, saying that, I want to tip my hat off to Angela and Nick for putting this on and pulling, you know what I'm saying?
Especially Angela. My girl just had a baby weeks ago.
Yes.
And still pulled this shit off.
She was on the Convo Cast 2 weeks after having a baby to come talk with Don DeBar, who's a Marxist. She's the Libertarian chair, and my other good friend, Mel K, who's a conservative, right? Well, she's an independent thinker. She was MAGA person, whatever you want to call her. She knows about the NED and all these other NGOs. That's why I love her. But they all came together, and we talked about war, and they all agreed on so many things. I want to play a quick clip, and I want to ask Sabby out of the gate because this is something where a lot of people have a hard time with the Mises Caucus and the Libertarian Party. Take a look at this so really quickly because I'm glad that Nick ran off with this, but I've been doing this for several years. 3 years ago on the Tulsi Gabbard campaign in New Hampshire, where me, Fee, Nico House, Johnny Tsunami, Mike Unge, we went up there to cover that campaign. What was the first time I got into a room with libertarians? I saw the sign that said, "Please don't feed the libertarians." And, you know, we hung out and had a good time. But take a look at this really quickly, and then I want to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you first, too, as well, because there are some wonky things, Sabby, that a person of color or a black woman might be like, no way. But let's take a look, and let me get your thoughts after you see my good boy, Mr. Eric Jackman.
On Tulsi Gabbard's campaign, we went up to New Hampshire. This event was a lot inspired by the day I met this guy. It was 3 years ago on Tulsi Gabbard's campaign. We went up to New Hampshire. It was like their after party for the election. And I got in a room with a bunch of my leftist friends, and I met this guy, I met Reed, and I met his brother, and we just started talking. And I was like, holy shit. Like what you experienced, right? The libertarians, there's a lot of shit we have in common. And I've been working this angle, saying this is a coalition. These are the guys I'm going to hang with. Everybody's got them wrong. They're not lacking compassion because they're capitalists or whatever the fuck it is.
We might not have economics in common, but most everything else.
We're anti-war, and that's where they started.
Free time.
We felt the vibes. Yeah, we knew this day would come.
And we're here today.
Yeah.
This is so great. Thank you for taking a video.
All right, roll the video. I'm going to say something.
All right, really quickly, too, as well. Take a look at this right now. The LP Mises Caucus, the Libertarian Party Mises Caucus, which is the one who, you know, who just won this, the chair. They're the new management in the Libertarian Party. I've been talking about them because I did get in a room with that guy, you know, and that's Mr. Eric Jackman. His brother is Mike Jackman, the part of the Four Horsemen. They're comedians. They do great imitations. You know what I'm saying? They did the whole Donald Trump thing, and Donald Trump saw Eric doing him China at an event, and it just took off, right? But the dude, he volunteered and worked for Ron Paul, Mike Gravel, and Dennis Kucinich, all in that one campaign they all ran. And these are considered the most anti-interventionist, peace-loving candidates to ever kind of hold the stage, especially Mike Gravel. But the Mises Caucus supports overturning the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Now, I don't know if that's still true to this day, but I'm not going to attack them for speaking out against war if our tax dollars are being spent on war, which is also another thing that a lot of people think, oh, they're just about it fiscally. No, they're compassionate people. I've met them. They don't want to see anybody die. And in fact, they want less to do with war because they want to be left the F alone, those libertarians. A lot of them are anarchists. Sabby, can you work and do a rally with people who want to maybe overturn the 1964 Civil Rights Act? Your thoughts?
I think, again, like I didn't know as much about the Mises Caucus before this rally, but now I know a lot about them because of this rally. But I think that, again, this just goes to show that then you should not organize with them on reference to like civil rights. Like, obviously, that's not where they fit. I mean, I feel like this is a no brainer, people. Like, there's some people that you can organize with on certain issues and some people where you cannot organize with on certain issues. So I think when it comes to something like anti-war, these are the types of people that you organize with, people who are anti-war. When it comes to libertarians, I want to remind people too, there are also left-wing libertarians. I've interviewed some of them. In fact, I interviewed Larry Sharp. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with him.
Yeah.
He ran for governor. Yeah, governor in New York. Like, it's not, I don't want everyone to assume that everyone who is a libertarian is on the right. That's not true. There's left-wing libertarians, there's right-wing libertarians. And Larry and I actually had this conversation before, and we had this conversation on his show. So I think that, again, you have to look at the issue that is at hand. Now, for some people, this is a no-go. They're not willing to cross that line. I understand that and I respect that. Then for you, don't cross that line. But I think that when you're looking at particular issues, like something like a Medicare for all, when you're looking at something that, especially that's an economic issue, that's going to affect people across the spectrum, right? You shouldn't just organize with people who are on the left for Medicare for all, because everybody needs healthcare in this country. And so if there are people on the right or people who are independent, so to speak, that do support Medicare for all, yes, you should organize with them on that one issue. But I think where we get into trouble is when people try to find this one person that they agree with on one issue, and they try to get them to say, well, if you don't agree with me on all these other issues, then we can't work together on this war issue. And that's why we don't build massive movements in this country. There's a lot of people saying we need a class movement. But when you say you need a class movement, you can't just have a class movement with people on the left. That would have been like asking Chris Smalls, hey, Chris, I know you're trying to organize a labor union for Amazon, but you can't organize with the Amazon workers who are Trump supporters. How ridiculous does that sound when all of them are affected?
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing. So someone like Chris Smalls, I think obviously he was able to look past that issue and say, we do agree when it comes to workers' rights for those of us that are at this Amazon warehouse. So they united over that. Does that mean that Chris Smalls agrees with them when it comes to other political issues? No, absolutely not. But imagine if he would have just written them off because he has to have someone who agrees with him on every issue.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
Sam, you want to jump on this one?
I mean, it is common sense. I mean, there's not much else to say. I mean, but I do think apparently people need to hear this because they think that it is absolutely just a no situation to align with libertarians. And the LaRouche people were mentioned a lot, right?
Yeah.
The LaRouche people, and even Maddo mentioned them. Let me tell you about the LaRouche people. The LaRouche people are the ones calling out politicians. Other than a few independent left journalists that I've seen, the LaRouche people are the ones confronting AOC, confronting a lot of these. And then the same group of people, literally, oh my gosh, these LaRoucheites, they're blah blah blah, they're right wing fascists, blah blah blah. But they're confronting power. They're like going, to expose these people. Where is the left on that? I don't see them doing that. So, and if anything, that's shameful for us who consider ourselves leftists, because then it's like, well, what are we doing? Why did it take the right to go storm the Capitol building? I mean, I'm not saying it was effective, but I'm saying for years the Bernie movement talked about going to take over the government, and doing all these things. We can't even get together in a room and agree on one thing. And so to me, it just more so points out how shameful it is that we haven't been able to do that. And I just think it really, once again, we're being outlefted by a lot of people on the right on a lot of things. And if you don't want us going in that direction, well, maybe we should do better at building coalitions with people we don't agree with, because the only thing that I think can save the people of the United States, not the government, because I don't think the government can be saved and I don't think it should be, is a coalition of people across every single spectrum from left to right. And I see that happening in Europe and Czechoslovakia or the Czech Republic. They were able to, communists organize with people on the right against NATO and against sanctions on Russia because of what it's doing to their economy. I cannot imagine I cannot imagine us having that. I mean, this is sort of the beginning of it, I think, with this event, and I'm very proud that that was able to transpire. But I mean, that is like that. It was massive, thousands and thousands of people. That's where we need to get there. And we're not going to get there by only talking with a checklist of people who agree with us on everything. I don't agree with any single person in the world on everything.
I don't even agree with myself on everything. I'm constantly presented with new information and changing my mind. I don't agree with myself all the time. It's fucking ridiculous to assume that you're going to. But here's the thing. The online communists, and come for me if you want, but y'all drive me fucking crazy because you talk about class solidarity. You don't fucking mean that shit. You don't mean that at all. It's very frustrating to me. It's like Sabi was saying, and I've said this before. I often wonder, because you see all the online commies come out when there's a strike or whatever. I support the workers. Do you though? But do you really? Because a lot of those workers are Trump voters. Do you support those workers too, or just the ones that agree with you on everything? Because I support all of them, every single one of them on the issue of labor. And that's it, period. End of story. That's it. And there's a lot of these online commies who are, they talk a whole big game about solidarity. They don't fucking mean it. And it's very frustrating to witness.
Yeah.
But as I've said before, you don't nobody's asking you to like go out to dinner with these people or be besties or like have play dates with their kids or whatever. You're showing up to a rally for a cause that you supposedly care about, right? Like it's the most juvenile thing to say, oh, I really care about this thing, but that person over there that I don't like also cares about it, so that means I can't fight for it anymore. That's fucking dumb. Are you a child? Like, I don't give a shit who shows up to this rally. I'm going to show up because I want to end the fucking war, period. And it's really that simple. And so these single issue coalitions are vital because that's how we're going to get things done. You can't, as Fida said, like when I have an Assange event, do you expect me to walk around with a checklist and make sure that nobody's guilty of wrongthink? And if I disagree with you on something, then I have to kick you out of the rally? Of fucking course not. I want to free Julian Assange. I don't care who shows up. I mean, as long as you're not an infiltrator who's like there to cause problems or whatever. But I don't care. I don't care who you voted for. I don't care what books you read. I don't care what ism you subscribe to. If you want to come and help me free Julian Assange and fight for free speech and press freedom, welcome aboard. I mean, we don't have to agree on everything. We're just here for the one thing, and that's it. And it's very frustrating to me that grown-ass adults aren't able to comprehend this.
Fee wasn't lying. Well, I was going to just say it, and I'll hand it right to you, but Fee was saying, and I just got to throw this in there, Sabby, really quickly. She's saying the leftists can't agree on everything. We couldn't agree on lunch when we were working at the Bernie Sanders Cafe and stuff, hanging out, having events there. It's like, we can't even order lunch together. We can't agree on shit. Go ahead, Sabby.
I'll just say, like, there are infiltrators, and we've seen it. Like, those of us that organize, like, if you notice, I've said this before, some of the same people who criticize this rally and criticize the March for Medicare for All and every other direct action event that's happened within the past, like, 3 to 4 years, you notice these people don't organize anything.
Not a damn thing.
And having been in organizing spaces with some of them, they try their best to prevent these movements from happening, to prevent the action from happening. So you got to think about something here. If you're spending 24/7 of your time on Twitter attacking events and attacking speakers, not saying I agree with all the people that were chosen, but I was not an organizer. So if you're spending most of your time doing that, attacking these people that are part of this rally or any other action, what are you really doing with your time? Why not take that time back, get off of Twitter, and actually organize with people in your community? But they're not going to do that. These are the same people who have no problem simping for and advocating for a crime bill, Joe. So make it make sense.
Yeah.
They were all talking about, oh, the speakers are white supremacists and they voted for Joe fucking Biden. Shut up.
I know.
Really?
I did rag on a lot of the leftists here and whatnot, because one thing I did learn, and this is something Fam was getting a little frustrated with as we were going along, the libertarians, right? Like within their own party. Left-wing libertarians are classical libertarians, right? They literally are. So if I was to join the party, I'd be hanging out with Larry Sharpe because he's not a left-wing. He's a leftist libertarian. He's not a Mises Caucus guy. Either is DC, who tried to start one of these caucuses over here that was fought back by one of the ex-vice chairs who dropped out, who's making stupid-ass tweets going, oh, my God, Marxists killed all Christians here, and I will never unite with them. It's like, dude, yeah. And at one time, cavemen used to hit each other over the head with clubs, and now we had something called the microchip, and we evolved as humans, and everything is not as it seems. And if you want to stop the wars, why wouldn't you go with anybody who wants to stop the wars? I just want to send my love out to DC too as well. But we did discover, and I have to call them out because I voted Libertarian this time. I voted for one conservative, Stephen Marchant, who was running for Secretary of State, and he was a conservative. He was a MAGA guy. He was a Trump guy, but he was willing to give all the reforms to elections that I want, or at least put them on the table from what we witnessed and seen in the Latin America, and he was willing to do so. So I did vote for him, but I voted for libertarians because I've been talking about this great compromise, and this was an event where we were all supposed to compromise together. But fam, I'll let you jump in right away too as well. Your thoughts on, now I know too, and I didn't know this, like, holy shit, the Libertarian Party, they have the same crap the Democratic Party has, where it's the drama and all this shit involved. They're still a party, no?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think every coalition, every organization is going to have this. It's just human nature. I mean, especially now when things are tense and we've been so propagandized in our own little sectarian, like little areas where we only talk to the people that we know. I think what I saw happening was very unfortunate, like just libertarians going at each other. It's like, oh, okay, well, you would think because they're free speech advocates and there's all of this stuff, like they'd be above it, but no, it's the same thing. I'm sure in the conservative side, it's the same thing. I'm sure in the Democrat, socialist, whatever. The reality is, I mean, I think we're running out of time here. I think we've been past running out of time. I really don't care what your ideology is. I have my ideology. You have yours. The reality is, again, we're not going to be able to fight about our ideologies. I can't tell you how much I disagree with the libertarian conservative point of view on healthcare, or how they equate, a lot of them equate Nazism to communism, or how they think of everything. They're all authoritarians and every state is bad. Like, I've seen good governments work in other countries, but that's irrelevant if we get blown up tomorrow, because our country is, again, it's playing chicken with nuclear powers. And I think that is more important than having to spout about my ism and why I think I'm right and why I think everybody else is wrong. And I think hopefully we're getting to the point closer and closer and closer where this shit is coming to, like, as Pasta says, the chickens are coming home to roost, because I do think they are. And I do think that is going to happen. Just being here on this side of the world and seeing how the entire world is changing. Let me tell you, the West is not, the United States in particular, is not the leader anymore. They are losing that power very fast. Countries are working with each other, trying to cooperate with each other. They're sanctioning Russia like crazy. And the sanctions aren't doing anything because Russia is working with India, Pakistan, China, with new areas. They're building relationships with Africa. Africa is calling out the US for being neo-colonialists and trying to recolonize Africa. And they're saying, we want you guys out. We're going to start working with our Eastern partners. Same thing in Latin America. They refuse to send weapons to Ukraine and support Ukraine. So what you're seeing here is the realization from a lot of these countries that have been screwed by the United States, we kind of want a different relationship. And I think that is actually really happening. And we're going to have to realize that as Americans, when our country doesn't produce anything, by the way, we don't produce anything but weapons and war. Like, we are very, very vulnerable right now in the economic sector. And I think that's when we're going to see something. And I'm really, I'm hopeful. But at the same time, I'm also realistic that I think it's going to get worse. And seeing all these, all the pictures of, by the way, of like, the comparisons of the subway in New York to this subway in Moscow, guys, like Russia was completely collapsed in the 90s. And you look at, if you come to Moscow, you look at it, you won't believe it. It is absolutely, completely a different country. And I think a lot of the lies that have been told about Russia are just so crazy. Like, coming here, I even knew that we were lied to, but I didn't know it was this much. And I think people who have traveled and know this stuff and have seen different parts of the world need to understand that. There was a Julian Assange mural here, not too far from Moscow, and that just goes to show you, like, there's this idea that the U.S. is bringing democracy, that we're there to help Ukrainians, like we were there to help the Afghan women, like we were there to help the people of Syria. We wouldn't even lift sanctions on Syria when they had an earthquake until we were shamed into doing it, by the way, and only a few. So I mean, that's where we're at, and I commend everybody who's doing their part, whether it's through organizing, activism, journalism, having your YouTube show. I really do see a difference from 5 years ago, but at the same time, things have also gotten worse, and our enemies are are really, really ramping it up here. So there's definitely agent provocateurs, by the way, too, in these events. The same guy from the March for Medicare for All happened to be at the, come on.
And people fell for that shit. Like, it's the same exact guy. Really? You're going to fall for that shit? Come on. It's
Guys.
like people, do you not know how this works?
Sorry.
Do you not know?
I know Sab's got to get out of here. Sabby, thank you so much for joining us
Sabby!
today. Let everybody know what you got going on. Listen, there's some things I want to talk about, so let me know when we can get together, have you on some more. And, you know, we love coming on RBN and all that stuff, but let all the smart, beautiful, funny-ass people in the chat, let them know where they can find you.
Awesome. Yeah, you guys can find me on the Revolutionary Blackout Network on YouTube. You can also find me on my channel, which is Sabby Sabs. And tonight, I actually have a journalist coming on from the World Socialist website. We are going to have a little talk. Apparently, they put out an article attacking this rally. So we are going to have a little chit chat. So, yeah.
Nice.
Have fun. Give them hell. We love
get him,
you.
Sabby.
Sabby Sabs in the
Bye.
house. Mr. Winston.
What?
Let all the beautiful people out there know where they can find you. And what you got coming on, Mrs. TNT, late night?
Yeah, I'm too old for that shit, man.
Hey.
I need a time slot. So I'm over on the tweeters at Sarcasm Stardust. I tweet a lot about the Julian Assange stuff. So if you're interested in keeping up with that, you can follow me there. We do have another rally coming up in April. We have a meeting about it Wednesday. We were trying to get through the Rage stuff first. We had one meeting, but then Rage was kicking off and it was hard to get everybody in a meeting space. So we have a meeting on Wednesday, so we'll have some more details soon, but it is, I think, I keep going back and forth. I'm pretty sure we're going to do it April 11th because in my personal opinion, it's a Tuesday. So, I mean, that means that turnout will probably be a little bit smaller. However, I think it's really important to have a presence in DC on the day because that is the day. That is the anniversary of Assange's, essentially him being kidnapped from the Ecuadorian embassy. So some people have said that we should have it the Saturday before. I understand that, but I also think that it's kind of silly to have another Saturday protest at the Department of Justice if that's where we choose to do it because nobody's there, nobody's working, nobody cares. So I feel like maybe I'll try to do a bigger event on Saturday and then just get like my dedicated crew of people to also come on Tuesday. I don't know, we're still trying to figure it out. I'm bouncing ideas around, but it'll definitely be on or around April 11th. So mark your calendars, save the date. Hopefully people can come out even if it is on a Tuesday. It's really important. So that's coming up. And then also I have I'm back on TNT Radio. So Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern. It's fucking late and I'm old and tired and it's terrible and I need a new time slot. But tonight I have Dan Cohen coming on. So I'm really excited to talk to him. He was one of the featured speakers at the Rage rally. So that's going to be great. And I have Eric Jackman and Reed Coverdale and a bunch of cool people coming up. So you can find that at tntradio.live. And then they also have an app on all the app stuff and Podbean and all that shit. So it's easy to find. Just go look it up and you can, there's lots of really cool.
You know how much I love you that I started my speech and said, let's keep it going. Free Julian Assange. Yes. I did it twice right out the gate. Yeah. Homegirl Misty always does it for everybody else. She's always, everybody loves you, the work you do, and you're just
not everybody.
Well, the people, everybody that I like.
Well, Putin loves her.
Putin does love me. He's a good guy. I got that. He's a good man. That Putin, very generous. He's good. Well, he's good. Good boss. I like him.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks. It was good to see you guys. It was good to see you. I feel like I haven't talked to you in ages. We need to get together soon.
I know.
Yeah,
we do.
Yeah, we do.
Misty Winston, ladies.
Okay, love you guys. See ya.
Peace.
Bye.
Fam, I just want to show really quickly some videos, or pictures real quick of this section because we got a lot going on. Fam, you gotta make ways. You gotta stand with your libertarian brethren, and we have a different opinions, and things got a little sparkly last time we were on a show together. But I showed up, and if you don't know who Scott Horton is, ladies and gentlemen, he's a libertarian. He got really elevated. He antiwar.com, but when he did a debate with Bill Kristol, he had Bill Kristol sweating. And all the man had on stage, his only weapon was a bottle of Dr. Pepper. He loves Dr. Pepper. I stopped. I saw Dr. Pepper cotton candy, and I was able to surprise him. He didn't even know. So, fam, that's how you build bridges. You build bridges with Dr. Pepper cotton candy for those who like it. And, fam, my favorite picture. Look at that. You see that one? Hold on. Let me get that nice and big for you. See that one? I was cutting up Zelensky, a nice, fresh line. Somebody had a Zelensky Cokie Smurf doing it up. And I want to spend a special thank you to Richard Grove for retweeting me throughout the whole event and sharing my stuff. Richard Grove, guys, if you don't know Grand Theft Auto, go over there, check it out. He doesn't have a huge following on Twitter. I don't know if he's had a Twitter, but he's been in the game for quite some time. I don't know who took this picture, this awesome picture, but Richard Grove shared it, and I'm going to use it. Thank you so much, Richard.
He's going to put it on his Tinder, everybody.
It's going on my Tinder, fam. I don't do Tinder out here anymore. It's not worthy anymore. You can't do the Tinder anymore. It's not in Vegas. It just doesn't work, fam. But yeah, let me say hi and thank you to a few people who left some love on the Ray tokens. Trey, right? Of course. Thank you, Trey, for the Super Ray contribution. Is always appreciated on the couch. Ellie Marino, thank you so much, Ellie. Pasta killed at both speeches. Thank you. Both and all you do. Thank you so much, Anna Maris. We love you. Love each and every one of you, fams. Spit the truth. Anna Maris also said the outrage spurring is good and needed. So who has an actionable plan to bring that dollar home? And that's the most important thing. If we end the funding to the war, like Anna Maris is putting up, then they have nothing. I'm not hearing a lot of when we win, got to have a goal or a promise people can fight for, in my opinion. So that stated goal needs to be there, and I think that's it. Number one, end all the funding, get rid of it, make sure they can't fund this war. That is a goal, and that's what we should do. Old man Biden was just creeping over there in Kiev just the other day. He can't go to Palestine, fam, East Palestine in Ohio, but he's going to go over to Kiev and promise them more money and weapons. I believe your tweet just exploded. Ellie also says, if the organizers decided not to allow certain flags at an event for optics or whatever reason, that should be made clear beforehand next time. Censoring or throwing fits on the spot just plays into the imperialist divide and conquer game. I don't know if you can outlaw a flag or say you can't bring it. It might be tough. But yeah, I get what you're saying. And thank you so much, guys, for participating. Fam, I got something really quick. And I'm going to try to read it over here.
Fam.
What, fam? What did I do? You want to just cut it short, or?
Well, we don't have that much time. It's because it's 1:30.
You want to do the last section, or?
I don't know. You said you got something, so is it extra, or is it?
No. It's the stuff I put in there, section 2.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So here it is, fam, and I knew you're gonna like this. I saw this in the on a newspaper in the New York Times. I bought the New York Times yesterday. And, I'm always interested. How do the people feel? How do they look at it? How is this coming across to the mainstream, right? So I always look at the propaganda. I like grabbing the newspaper because the newspaper, the AP, the New York Times, the USA Today, all these papers will tell you exactly what they're trying to propagate. Therefore, you can beat it down. 1 year into the war, fam, listen to this. And this is hyped up during the rally, hyped up as Joe Biden goes over there. Putin is crafting the Russia he craves. In Ukraine, President Vladimir Putin invasion has met setback after setback, but its effect at home has been very, very different. And fam, they literally, and I don't even know if this author, Anton Trovanovsky or Valerie Hopkins has been in Russia for quite some time. Who knows? But it's crazy. The grievances and paranoia and imperialist mindset that drove President Vladimir Putin to invade Ukraine has seeped deep into the Russian life after a year of war. So right off the bat, the way they frame it, fam, the grievances, the paranoia, and imperialist mindset that drove Vladimir Putin to invade Ukraine have seeped deep into Russian life a year after the war. A broad and an even societal upheaval that has left the Russian leader more dominant than ever at home. So in other words, fam, what they're saying, and I want your thoughts on this, they're pretty much saying that during the war, all this shit's happening, but now Putin is going back home and he's crafting Russia in his own mindset, removing democracy, being more authoritarian, just implementing and thrusting it into American society. In other words, they're trying to demonize the hell out of the fucking guy. Your thoughts on that article so far?
I mean, nothing much different than what's been said was said. Is there more? I mean, I just, yeah.
Let me make it nice and bigger, and you can see because I'm having a hard time reading it from a distance. So, fam, they gotta set more of a picture, more of their picture of what they're trying to display. School children collect empty cans to make candles for soldiers in the trenches. So, while learning in a new weekly class that the Russian military has always liberated humanity from aggressors who seek world domination. Museums and theaters, which remain islands of artistic freedom during previous crackdowns have seen the special status evaporate. Their anti-war performers and artists expunged. New exhibits put on the state have titles like NATOism, a play off Nazism that seeks to cast the Western military alliance as a posing threat as existential as the Nazis of World War II. Many of these activist groups and right organizations that have sprung up in the first 30 years of post-Soviet Russia have met an abrupt end, while nationalist groups, once again seen as fringe, take center stage.
Yeah, so they're basically taking clear support for the special military operation and twisting it into saying that Putin is forcing this support. Actually, he's not forcing the support. The support is strong throughout Russia, mostly outside of Moscow. Like I said, in Donbass, you'll see Soviet flags. You'll see a lot of support for what the special military operation for Putin, for the people of the Donbass. And so the whole thing is, again, they're not at war with Ukrainians. They're at war with NATO. And so what you're seeing is this is an existential war for Russia. And this is what I'll go into explaining in Putin's speech today. He said, this is a war that the US and NATO want to wipe Russia off the map. They have said it. This is their words. This is what they've said. So, of course, Russia is being vilified. Their culture is being attacked. Why wouldn't they have, the focus on, hey, we're being attacked by Nazis? Why wouldn't they be talking about this stuff if they're the ones being vilified? It's just, but they're twisting this in the article to mean like Putin is forcing this. And the groups they're talking about are probably a lot of the pro-Navalny US-funded groups that have just lost a lot of support as well because of the fact that the ties that have been obviously exposed, and because of the fact that now the world is seeing, as more and more information comes out, that Russia is pretty much reacted into a war that was already there, right? This is something a lot of people don't mention. The war was already happening. Russia entered a war. And so that's what a lot of people don't understand when we talk about this conflict. You don't have to love Putin or have a Putin shrine. And a lot of people I work with, and I did an interview earlier where I said this, like, they don't necessarily hate the West as much as or hate the United States or as weary about it. I'm more anti-US than they are, because I understand my government. I understand what my government has done, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I mean, I just see this as them twisting the fact that a lot of people are actually in support of this because they do see it as like a fight for their existence, their homeland.
And I don't know where the United States government is right now, and the military and the State Department and everything that's going on. I don't think they really think that they're going to go into Russia and have regime change, but it seems like the way this is written here, and I just wanted to read this last paragraph, that they still are on message to go in and justify some removal of Vladimir Putin because he is the evil there. As Friday's first anniversary of the invasion approaches, fam, Russia's military has suffered setback after setback, falling short of its goal of taking control of Ukraine. But at home, facing little resistance, Mr. Putin's year of war has allowed him to go further than many thought possible in reshaping Russia in his image. So first of all, they lie about what's going on in the war, setback after setback after setback, when we know that Russia could have wiped Ukraine off the face of the earth right away, but they're trying not to destroy the infrastructure. They're now surrounding them in one of the last strongholds that's going on for Ukraine, so it looks like it's almost the end of the war. And they've, every step of the way, Putin was willing to negotiate, get something done, but it's not happened. And also the fact that they're trying to set this image that Putin, the evil guy, is using these times to either further go in his country, take away freedoms, take away democracies, and shape the country in his image, just further vilifying him. Fam.
Yeah. While the U.S. is literally continuing to supply long-range missiles. And so they have stated as much as the more the U.S. does this, the more Russia's going to go in. And so then the U.S. is going to say, oh, see, we told you Putin wants to take over Europe. No, that was never Russia's intention. They didn't really care about Ukraine in those sense of taking it over. And Ukraine has always been a country Russians have visited and vice versa. So it's never been anything like that. And this conflict in the Donbass stems from way long ago issues in the region and the ethnic makeup of the country. We know, we talked about Mark Sloboda to this. These are ethnic Russians that felt like they were ethnically with Russia for a long time. And so then, there's that fight, and the whole Nazi remains from prior there. So you have a whole situation that had nothing to do with it could have been solved internally, but of course it was used by the US and NATO for political manipulation.
Yeah. And just so we know, I know it's not Russia, but any type of enemy or anybody in the State Department that wants to get rid of a Russian ally, or Syria, to rescue Syrians digging out of an earthquake and war, UN must stand up to the Assad regime. So no matter what, the fact is they're having a humanitarian crisis. They don't want to lift the sanctions. They don't want to let help out. They don't want to tell Israel to stop bombing, because Israel is going to continue bombing, whether it be, roads where there possibly aid could be coming in, or what they believe they were trying to go after some individual, and they didn't mind killing other citizens in the actual attack. They still want you to think that the real thing that's evil and awful and what's going on in Syria is Assad.
Yeah.
Regardless if Assad is loved by his people, the fact that Assad can get in a car and drive around his country without security. I mean, that's how much Assad is loved. But no matter what, the State Department must have their enemy, even in the times of a crisis like an earthquake, fam. It's just disgusting.
Yeah. The only lend out a helping hand if you denounce Assad. And by the way, the white helmets, the resurgence of the white helmets is something they're taking advantage of too. So it's disgusting, really. And anybody who thinks that the U.S. is innocent in this conflict and it's all evil Russia really is just propagandized beyond anything. I mean, it's clearly like, how many times do they have to lie to you about going to help out the people of a country? Has any country been better off after the U.S. invaded them and helped them? No, they haven't. So come on.
I had to think about that for a second, fam. The answer is no.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get to the last topic of the day real quick, because I know we have been going for a long show over here, fam. What you got? Putin's speech, right? A lot of people, we didn't get a chance to talk to you about it. You can fill me in. What's going on? How was that speech?
Right. So Putin spoke to basically the Federal Assembly, or the Russian Parliament, and he basically said a few key points. Among them were, again, saying that the United States has been playing this game for a long time. He mentioned Yugoslavia, Libya, Syria, and Iraq, using the same type of foreign policy and strategy. We talked about this a little bit earlier. We mentioned it. This is the same playbook that they keep using. And apparently Russia was told that there was going to be dialogue, but then behind their backs there wasn't. We know about the Minsk Accords, that they were just buying time. And a couple things I do want to point out that I think were important in this whole thing regarding the Putin speech. Let me see here. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so Putin said that the Western nations are seeking to use the conflict to strengthen their own power. According to Putin, we are protecting the lives of the people, our home, and the goal of the West is unbridled power. They have already spent more than $150 billion to supply Kiev. He then went on to talk about how they're not helping the nations that are suffering from the lack of grain, like Africa. So the majority of the grain actually ended up in Spain to feed pigs, by the way, in case anybody missed that. He said this, which I thought was very powerful. The West continues to steal from everyone, hiding behind words of freedom and democracy by imposing totalitarian values that they call liberal. They are suppressing freedom of thought in their own countries. They try to distract their own people from corruption scandals. Back in the 1930s, they, meaning the West, led the way for Nazis to take power in Germany and recently started to take Ukraine from Russia. Anyone who knows a little history knows this can be traced to the 19th century. And then he talks about the support of the coup. Then he says the West doesn't care who they have to arm when it comes to fighting Russia. The main thing is that they are waging a war against Russia, and that means they need to use everyone. Terrorists, neo-Nazis, a devil if they have to. The main thing for them is to use their weapons against Russia. They are creating hotbeds of instability near our borders, This is the Balkans and the Caucasus we're talking about here. Like I've mentioned before, that was in the 2019 RAND document. Their idea has remained the same: to flame wars in Europe by someone else's hand by eliminating competition. Eliminating the competition, Germany, completely destroying Germany's economy. He said, now we are not at war with the people of Ukraine. This is an important thing he said. And I think this is important for people to hear because people think Russians hate Ukrainians. We are not at war with the people of Ukraine. This is something I've said many times. The people of Ukraine are now hostages to the Kiev regime and their Western masters who have effectively occupied the country in the political, military, and economic sense. This is what I tell people. Ukraine has long not been a sovereign country. Ukraine has been a country controlled by the United States, by NATO, for a long time. For decades, they've been destroying Ukraine's industry, exploiting Ukrainian natural resources, and this led to an escalation in an increase in poverty and inequality. Of course, this is something that feeds the feelings that fuel the war. It is a truly sad situation where people are being sacrificed for this war. The responsibility for stoking this war is entirely on the soldiers of the Western elites and the Kiev regime, who view the Ukrainian people not as their own people, but as someone else. And they're not serving their national interests, but Western interests. The West is using Ukraine as a tool, as a testing grounds, and as a launch pad against us. One thing should be clear. The more long-range weapons are sent to Ukraine, the longer we will have to push the threat away from our borders. That's natural. The Western elites do not conceal their goal of effecting a strategic defeat in Russia. That is their words. That means they want to take us off the map. They want to turn the local conflict into a global confrontation. This is how we understand this, and we will respond adequately because this is now about the very existence of our country. But they cannot ignore the fact that Russia, as we mentioned earlier, cannot be defeated on the battlefield. So they're waging increasingly aggressive information attacks, first of all, targeting the young generations, lying on every step, distorting historical truth, attacking our culture. So then he talked about the economy, the ruble, the share of the ruble has gone up, basically. And he talked about the things they're going to do, and also said that they need to combine the success of the Soviet system with the experience of the recent decades. This is what I mean when I say the U.S. or Russia has Soviet elements. Even though it's not a communist country, it still has some Soviet elements. And lastly, the important thing, Russia's suspended participation in the New START nuclear arms treaty, but wants transparency for both sides, and also that basically they are not withdrawing from it. They simply want it to be fair, and they feel like the U.S. and NATO are basically creating that only to make it work along their own terms. So that's essentially what the vast majority of what was said. I just want to ask you, fam, what do you think of what Putin said? Is there any truth to the U.S., censoring its own people? The fact that this is said, I don't know many other presidents besides maybe some of the ones in Latin America that talk about this stuff, with the U.S., that call out the U.S. in that way. I think it's interesting. And I think it's more interesting that you don't get to hear this in the West. You don't get to hear Putin's speech. I was never paying too much attention to his speeches. And seeing the ones from a few years ago and the recent ones now, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Basically pointing out all the issues we have.
The thing I like to point out more than anything, and this is right out the gate, this is the thing that stood out to me the most right here. And this is something like, okay, we just need to look to history, right? Like this whole situation, the lady on the plane, the older lady on the plane that sat with me the other day, Suzanne Wilson, I love you. It was amazing meeting you. And I told you I would keep fighting because she went out to see this rally. She's well into her 80s with her sister. Her sister flew in from Pittsburgh. She flew in from Santa Barbara, fam. She brought a Russian flag, and she had mentioned 2014, right? And she says people have to realize what happened to Russia in 2014 because they propped up this puppet government in Ukraine for the sole reason of starting a proxy war with Russia. And they did so by bombing a lot of people in the Donbass, like ethnic Russians. But if you want to even look before that, the West plays the same game all the time. So when you have it right here, West played the same game when it destroyed Libya, Iraq, and Syria. You need just look in your own lifetime to look back and see what the U.S. has done. This is not what just the U.S. done in the really near past, in the very big past for quite some time. I got to read Smedley Butler, and Smedley Butler gave the speech in 1935. And in that book, he lists out all the people who made money and all the people who suffered, fam. And it's the same thing. It's a racket. It's not about human rights. It's not about disputed territory. It's only about who gets to control all the resources, and the West will do anything to propagate war to make sure they can make money. And that is something that's pointed out right away. And Russia was open to dialogue in the West, right? Okay. But what happens every single time they're open to dialogue? They use these situations like they use the Minsk Accords to just buy more time to build up the military for that proxy war. And it says it right there. And they're only looking to strengthen their own power at the end of the day. They're not looking to work with Russia. They're not looking at them as equals. They want to make sure that they have an upper hand over Russia, and that's why they're acting the way they are. And Putin is basically just calling them out on this behavior.
Yeah, and the hiding behind words of freedom and democracy, I thought that was
Always.
very poignant, because this is exactly the words that come out of the State Department. We're going to restore the soul of our nation. We're going to spread democracy and freedom. We have to take on Putin and Assad and all these, dictators that threaten, democracy and freedom of speech. And it's like, hello, Julian Assange would like a word. And all the activists that have been jailed or killed. Today I believe I think it was the anniversary of both Sandino's assassination, and what was it? I think Malcolm X. Yeah, they were both assassinated on the 21st of February, and so it's important to remember these people. Like again, Sandino was of course attacked by the pro-Western backed regime in Nicaragua, and of course Malcolm X we know as well by the State Department. And this is nothing new, right? As Putin said, you can go back in history and see this. But the problem is in America, you mentioned civics, fam. We used to be taught civics. We're not taught civics anymore.
Not taught anymore?
I wasn't taught civics, really. And so, I mean, that's the sort of thing that we lack in America is like, and so people grow up thinking that, their country is the greatest thing in the world. And is it really? I mean, I think still some people here, especially younger ones, like I mentioned, really think that the US is far more diplomatic and we can still, no, like I just, and it's not the people of the US. I'm talking about the government. But again, at some point, there's responsibility that falls on Americans. And this is why I think the least thing you can do is literally attend a rally. And that's why I thought it was important to attend that rally.
Fam, you said you weren't taught civics in class. From living with you, I know what else you weren't taught. Home ec. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today. Just kidding. I wish I had my...
Fam, wait. There's a video I want to show.
Huh?
Yeah, there should be a video there.
You have a video? I think I might have screwed something up and erased it.
No, it's right. Well, it's on a Twitter. Oh, you think you did.
I think
Go to the Convo Couch. The Convo Couch.
Okay. I'll do Convo Couch Twitter.
Couch. Yeah.
My bad, fam.
Twitter. I just spoke Russian. Oh my God.
How did you say what you just said?
I just said yes in Russian. I responded to you in Russian.
How do you say it?
Da. Yes. Oh my God, guys! I think I'm turning Russian.
Is it the Putin one where he says, "Now we are at war"?
There's two. I posted them from the Convo Couch. There's two. But I want you to hear the first one, the one about Libya.
Okay, let me put that in there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to read it as we do it. Hold on. Fam,
well, I can read it. I can read it if you want.
You want me to translate? Because I can read Russian. So.
Okay. No, it's okay, fam. I'll practice.
Okay, you practice. I'm gonna keep it nice and low. Go ahead.
They behave just as shamelessly and duplicitously when destroying Yugoslavia, Iraq, Libya, and Syria. They will never be able to wash off this shame. The concepts of honor, trust, and decency are not for them. He's talking about the West. Over the long centuries of colonialism, dictate, and hegemony, they got used to being allowed everything, got used to spitting on the whole world. It turned out that they treat people living in their own countries with the same disdain, like a master. After all, they cynically deceived them too, tricked them with tall stories about the search for peace, about the adherence to the UN Security Council's resolution on Donbass. Indeed, the Western elites have become a symbol of total unprincipled lies. So that's one of Putin's. We can hear the next one, fam. And I want your thoughts on what he said right there. I mean, I just think, isn't it? It's just crazy to me. It sounds what I hear from Nicaragua.
I mentioned Nicaragua in my speech too, fam. And I just, I'm like, I'm going to go on a panel today. I'm going to ask them, like, who here really believes what their government is telling them? Do you guys honestly believe that the government is being honest with us? I mean, he's talking like
just this once.
Yeah, just like the COVID stuff. Oh yeah, they've been bad on everything else, but they're benevolent right now. Here's Putin, fam. You can translate because you're speaking the Ruski, not me.
We are not at war with the people of Ukraine. I have already said this many times. They became a hostage of the Kiev regime and its Western masters who actually occupied this country. In the political, military, and economic sense. In the 1930s, the West actually opened the way to power for the Nazis in Germany. And today, they began to make Ukraine anti-Russia. This is not really a new project. People who are at least a little immersed in history know very well that this project has its roots back in the 19th century. It was cultivated in the Austro-Hungarian Empire and in Poland and in other countries with one goal: to tear these historical territories, which are now called Ukraine, from our country. That's what the goal is. We aren't, So, again, it's worth going back to history, and this is what I say when even people get mad. When I say, the U.S. was not instrumental in defeating. It took forever for the United States to get involved because they were initially trying to decide who was going to win, and of course, the arms, right? The supply of weapons.
They were funding everything, and they had to wait for the smoke clear to go. Okay, now let's jump on this tail over here and get rid of them. If the fascists were pushing forth and Hitler's army were putting forth and Hitler was going to win, they would have backed the freaking Nazis. They're just doing it now because it's a proxy war. And now they're actually on that continent, act like they're out there fighting for truth and justice and democracy. And they're standing behind and arming and backing Nazis, fam.
Yeah. And that's that, fam. So yeah, that's it.
Tomorrow we'll be back.
We'll be back. And fam, we can just, mention this. Biden visited Elensky, right? Zelensky. And I don't know if you want to just show that his visit. There's a few pictures. I don't know if you already showed it, but I just want to point that out, guys. Like when I did a tweet, right? When I said, hey, your government's mocking you, because I understand people may be mad, but I'm not seeing it. Like when the French are mad, you see them in the streets. They're in the streets calling out their government, calling out Macron, beheading people. Like they're in the streets. When you see all of the European protesters every day, the Belgians, the Germans, the Italians, the French, are all protesting, right? The Spaniards, even. You have all these people protesting. Guys, we can do better. That's what I mean. And you can do something. Somebody said, well, there's nothing we can do. There is something you can do. You can literally make it your mission to really say, hey, we need to stop this war. We're going to get blown up here. This needs to be the talk on the dinner table. This needs to be, everybody needs to be talking about this. Your government is really, our government is really just getting us closer and closer to nuclear disaster. And they are willing to do this. They are willing to say, well, they're not really going to do anything, are they? No, they're not going to do anything, because Russia really hasn't. I mean, they could have responded with something after the Nord Stream pipeline, right? They could. This is it's a terrorist attack, and they haven't. So really, a lot of people, Russia needs to be more aggressive. But this is like, there it is. There's Zelensky and Biden, and apparently Biden couldn't walk in a straight line. I don't know, but there's Palestine, Ohio, and again, like, where is the justice for the people there? How can Biden not fly less than 300 miles from DC to Palestine, East Palestine, Ohio, and then fly all the way to Ukraine to meet with this puppet that we know we know this is all for PR photo op, right? This is nothing. This does nothing to help Ukraine. This is nothing. Ukraine's not going to win this conflict. It's just not going to happen, guys. It's just not going to happen. So again, I would like to see more Americans really get angry. I mean, the fact that they're spitting in your face, they literally, and Putin said it, they're literally spitting in your face. Like, they're not paying attention to what's going on in your country, and they never have really. But again, we're not getting anything out of this. We're not even, we don't even have the war economy that we used to after World War II. But we're also not, we rely so much on imports. We don't export anything. We don't make anything in this country. So it's really scary. And I think more people should really be pissed off. Like, what the hell is going on here? Billions and billions more for Zelensky?
Well, it's got to wrap it up, fam. We got to get on out of here. That's it for today, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk more about this. There's a lot of things we got to talk about. I'm going to reach out to some people, fam. I've been going back and forth with Chuck Bodie. Maybe we can have him on the show. Patrick Henningsen, I met him over there too as well. So there's a lot of people I'd like to invite on the show. But that's it for today, fam. You got anything else going on?
No, I'll be at RT at 6 a.m. 8 a.m. Moscow time.
So that is 9 p.m. East Coast, West Coast time. 9 p.m. West Coast time. So 9 p.m. tonight, you'll be there. So fam, get some
midnight
rest.
Eastern.
That's it for today, guys. We love you. We'll see you soon. I am Pasta Jardula.
I'm Fiorella.
Convo out.